The entire executive floor went silent when the CEO suddenly stopped beside the old janitor and made a promise nobody expected her to keep. She had been surrounded by investors, lawyers, and senior managers, yet the one person who caught her attention was a quiet man pushing a cleaning cart through the marble hallway. "If you can play Chopin," she said with a nervous smile, "I'll marry you." A few executives laughed. Someone even whispered that the janitor probably did not know what Chopin was. But then the man slowly put down his mop, looked toward the grand piano sitting near the glass windows, and calmly walked toward it. What happened next changed the company forever. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that someone's appearance never tells you the whole story, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Your support helps these stories reach more people who believe that every person deserves to be seen. The janitor's name was Silas Mercer, a 52-year-old man who had worked at the headquarters of Halcyon Meridian Group for almost 3 years. He arrived every morning before sunrise, wearing a neatly pressed gray uniform and carrying the same worn leather lunch bag. His hair was mostly silver, his posture slightly tired, and his hands showed the marks of years of physical work. He rarely spoke unless someone spoke to him first. Most employees knew him only as the man who emptied wastebaskets, cleaned conference rooms, and polished the floors until they reflected the ceiling lights. What they did not know was that Silas had once spent his life surrounded by music. Across the building, the CEO, Celeste Arkwright, was fighting a completely different battle. At 39, she had built Halcyon Meridian into one of the most respected technology and logistics companies in the region. Newspapers called her brilliant. Investors called her fearless. Employees called her demanding. But privately, Celeste carried a loneliness she never discussed. Her father, the company's founder, had died 18 months earlier, leaving behind not only a powerful business but also a grand piano in the headquarters lobby. Celeste had promised him that she would keep playing, but after his death she had been unable to touch the instrument. Her father had taught her piano when she was a child. Chopin had been his favorite composer, and he believed that music revealed the part of a person that success could never hide. Every Friday afternoon, he used to sit beside Celeste at the piano and tell her that mistakes were not failures if she had the courage to continue. After his death, the piano became a painful reminder rather than a source of comfort. That morning, however, something unusual happened. A prestigious international investor was visiting, and Celeste had been preparing for a critical presentation that could determine the future of the company. She was exhausted, frustrated, and under enormous pressure. When she entered the lobby, she noticed Silas cleaning near the piano. On impulse, perhaps because she was overwhelmed, she said something she immediately regretted. "If you play Chopin, I'll marry you." The words were meant as a joke. Several executives nearby laughed. Celeste expected Silas to smile awkwardly and return to his work. Instead, he looked at her with an expression that was neither offended nor amused. There was something almost sorrowful in his eyes. Then he asked, quietly, whether she truly wanted him to play. The laughter disappeared. Celeste swallowed. She nodded. Silas placed his cleaning cloth on the cart and walked to the piano. His movements were calm. He sat down, adjusted the bench, and rested his hands above the keys. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the first notes filled the lobby. The music was gentle, controlled, and deeply expressive. It was not the performance of someone who had casually learned a few pieces. Every movement seemed deliberate, as though Silas knew exactly where every note was supposed to breathe. Employees began stepping out of offices. Security guards turned toward the lobby. The visiting investors stopped speaking. Celeste froze. She recognized the piece immediately. It was one her father had played for her when she was 8 years old. But Silas did something different with it. He did not play for applause. He played as if he were telling a story that words could never explain. The entire lobby seemed to become still around him. When the final note faded, nobody moved. Silas stood up and quietly returned to his cleaning cart. Celeste stared at him. She finally managed to ask where he had learned to play like that. Silas looked at the floor before answering. He had studied at a respected music conservatory when he was young. He had performed across several cities and had once been considered one of the most promising pianists of his generation. But his life had changed after his younger brother developed a serious illness. Silas left the conservatory to support his family. He worked wherever he could, eventually giving up music entirely. He told Celeste that he had not touched a concert piano in nearly 15 years until that morning. Celeste felt ashamed. The joke she had made suddenly seemed cruel. She apologized, but Silas simply smiled and told her that she had accidentally reminded him of something he thought he had lost forever. The following days were strange. Celeste began noticing things about Silas that she had never seen before. He always helped new employees find their way around the building. He repaired small things instead of reporting them when he could. He remembered the names of security guards' children and always saved leftover conference room pastries for the night staff. One afternoon, Celeste discovered him sitting alone beside the lobby piano. He was not playing. He was simply looking at it. She asked whether he missed performing. Silas answered that he missed being the person he had been before life convinced him that his dreams were no longer useful. Those words stayed with her. Meanwhile, Halcyon Meridian was entering dangerous territory. A rival company had discovered that one of its major contracts was vulnerable, and several board members wanted Celeste to sell a portion of the company. She refused. Then confidential information began appearing in the rival company's proposals. Someone inside Halcyon Meridian was leaking information. The board became suspicious of everyone. One senior executive suggested that Silas might be involved because he moved through nearly every department of the building. The suggestion was based on nothing more than his access to offices and his low position within the company. Celeste rejected the accusation immediately. But the investigation uncovered something unexpected. Silas had been cleaning near a conference room on the night confidential documents were copied. Security footage showed him entering the hallway. The board demanded that he be questioned. Silas remained calm. He explained that he had been called there because a water pipe had leaked. He had photographs from his phone showing the damaged ceiling. Then Celeste noticed something else in the footage. A senior executive had entered the same hallway several minutes before Silas. That executive was Victor Halden, the company's chief financial officer. Celeste ordered a deeper investigation. Within 48 hours, investigators discovered that Victor had been secretly communicating with the rival company. He had manipulated internal records and planned to force Celeste into selling the company at a reduced valuation. Silas had never been the problem. He had unknowingly become the witness who helped expose the truth. When the board meeting began, Victor attempted to blame Silas again. But this time Celeste stood up. She explained that the company had made a terrible mistake by judging a person according to his uniform instead of his character. Then she revealed that Silas had helped identify the timeline that exposed Victor's deception. The board members fell silent. Victor was removed from the company, and the investigation continued through the proper legal channels. After the meeting, Celeste found Silas standing beside the piano. She told him that her father had always believed the best part of a person could be hidden behind an ordinary life. Silas smiled. Celeste asked whether he would consider playing again, not for investors, not for executives, and not because anyone had made him a promise. Just because he loved music. For the first time in years, Silas sat down and played. Celeste listened from a nearby chair. Weeks later, something beautiful began happening at Halcyon Meridian. The company started hosting small afternoon music gatherings for employees. Silas became a volunteer music mentor for workers' children. Celeste occasionally joined him at the piano, slowly rebuilding the relationship with music that she had lost after her father's death. Their connection grew from respect, friendship, and shared healing rather than the impulsive promise that had started everything. One afternoon, Celeste returned to the lobby carrying 2 cups of coffee. Silas was finishing a Chopin piece. She placed 1 cup beside him and smiled. She reminded him of the ridiculous promise she had made months earlier. Silas laughed and told her that she had misunderstood the entire point. She asked what he meant. He explained that the most important thing had never been whether he could play Chopin. It was whether she could learn to see the person sitting behind the piano. Celeste looked at him for a long moment and admitted that she finally could. The grand lobby filled with afternoon light as Silas returned to the keys. Employees passed through the glass doors, conversations echoed softly across the marble floor, and the music moved through the building like a quiet reminder that people could begin again at any age. Silas had entered that building as someone almost nobody noticed. He left his old life behind without realizing that another chapter was waiting for him. And Celeste, despite all her wealth and power, learned something money had never taught her. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is carrying the very gift the world needs most. If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone who believes in second chances, and subscribe to Kindness Corner 2.0. Your support can help remind someone that their worth is never determined by their job title, clothing, or social position. Before the story ends, leave a comment saying, "Everyone deserves to be seen." It may seem like a small sentence, but sometimes a small act of kindness can remind another person that they matter. And that was the greatest lesson Silas ever gave Celeste: never judge the person holding the mop before discovering what music they carry inside.